Bradford, come on down.
Okay,
Let's wait for a second to get some items muted there before we get started.
Kevin Williams, come on down. You are the first four contestants.
I think I have it. The person is muted now.
Your host, Drew Kelly.
And you gotta exclude them.
Hey, there we go. That was great. All right, it's never a party till something gets broken, so we're off to a great start here. But I just want to say, I'm again Doug Erickson, State Senator from the 42nd District. I'd like to welcome you here to the kickoff of the Freedom Caucus in Washington State. And so as we look around Washington State right now, for the past almost a year, we've been in lockdown. The state's been under emergency orders from the governor. We've been working to get special sessions, and we've been unsuccessful. The people of Washington State, when they try to come to the Capitol building these days, they're met by chain link fences, walls, armed guards. During the opening weeks of the legislative session, they're actually met by 750 of Washington State's finest people, our National Guard, but they clearly were blocked and not allowed to come into the Capitol building to be able to participate in the democratic process. And while this is going on, we see a Democrat majority that is pushing through probably the most radical agenda we've seen in the history of Washington State. From income taxes to social engineering at our public schools, to letting felons out of jail early, to massive tax increases that the people have already rejected multiple times. So really what we're creating today and what we're putting in place is the Freedom Caucus. And the Freedom Caucus is here to listen to those people and give a voice to those people who voted for $30 license tabs, who have voted consistently against higher taxes in the cap and trade, carbon tax, energy arena. For those people that want to have more options for their local schools, who want to be participants in their local schools also and not have state debt-wide mandates from Olympia. So the Freedom Caucus is here to listen to those people, give them a voice, and make sure they have a way to participate in the American process of democracy. And we'll be doing that through a bunch of different ways in the upcoming years here in Washington State to make sure those voices are heard going forward. And so that's really what we're here to talk about today. The Freedom Caucus is here for the freedom of Washington State to control taxes, to protect individual liberties, to restore and return the rights to the people of Washington State that have been eroding over the past few years. So today we're going to go over a few different items of what the Freedom Caucus is going to be about, some of our agenda items, how we're going to communicate, I think, in a different fashion with the people of Washington State, take questions from the media also today. And really, at the end of the day, this is a grassroots Freedom Caucus movement in Washington State to give a voice to those people who really felt during the summer when their businesses were being shut down, when they were told they couldn't go to work, when they had all of these mismatches, pieces of information coming out of Olympia. They didn't think their voices were being heard. And the people that showed up in Olympia to go and talk to the legislators who were locked out by that wall, they want to have a voice also, and that's what we're here for. So we're going to hear about some of the whys of why we're doing this, and we're going to start out with Senator Patton from the 4th District.
Thank you very much, Doug, and Senator Mike Patton from the 4th Legislative District in the Spokane Valley. I think our citizens are interested in life, liberty, and prosperity. And those are three core values which the Freedom Caucus stands for. By life, I mean protecting vulnerable human life, strengthening families. To that end, I've introduced Senate Bill 5416, which would prohibit abortions on Down syndrome kids. And we know, in effect, that we've got almost a eugenic type situation. In Iceland, there's only 2 Down syndrome children born each year. In the United States, about 67% of the children that are Down syndrome are eliminated through abortion. And you contrast that, and I don't know how many of you have been to Special Olympic events, but that was one of the most thrilling things that ever happened to me, to be able to speak to those Down syndrome kids at the Special Olympics. Their joy, their excitement, just their wonder in life was so phenomenal that it left a lasting impression for me. And we want to protect Down syndrome kids. By liberty, I mean protecting our constitutional rights, especially the First Amendment and the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution. First Amendment deals with freedom of religion and religious liberty. And of course, the Second Amendment protects us on our right to bear arms and to protect ourselves. So both those amendments seem to be under attack here in Washington State, and we've got to work hard to protect those. And then thirdly, prosperity. I mean, just yesterday, Rochelle Walensky, who is the head of the CDC under President Biden, indicated that the schools ought to be open, that there's no need that all the teachers be vaccinated. It's not a prerequisite. So you look at that, you look at our efforts to open up the state with promoting Senate Bill 5114, which has been turned down twice now. We need to open the state to phase 2 at the very least. And we've got this crazy quilt deal where there's winners and losers that have been picked by Governor Inslee in certain areas of the state that can do things and others that can't. It makes no rhyme or reason. So these are some of the 3 areas that we hope to advocate for, represent our constituents, and all the citizens of Washington State are interested in those issues. I'm going to turn it over to Senator Fortunato now, who will talk about how.
Well, thank you, Senator Patton. And, people asked, why are you forming this caucus? And this caucus was actually formed way back in May of last year, when we had our first press conference calling for a legislative special session. So the 3 of us got together, and we had some members from the House at that time, pointing out that the governor was picking winners and losers, and we wanted to make it known that we were sticking up for the people. We were addressing those issues. And by calling for a legislative special session. Well, it took about a month later for the rest of our caucus to get on board, but eventually they did. So we want to lead our caucus and lead our state in a direction to preserve people's rights and their liberties. When you talk about what are we actually doing, Senator Patton talked about some of the life issues. I focus a lot on non-life issues and gun issues, but these are really just liberty issues. These are issues that affect every member of our society throughout our state. And I'm a strong believer in people's rights. People are not stupid when it comes to this virus. And I repeatedly sent Governor Inslee letters. And this was one of the frustrations. All we're doing is sending letters. But we sent letters to Governor Inslee pointing out the inconsistency in his approach to how he's enforcing this lockdown. And, it became pretty apparent that shortly after all this stuff was put in place, that you can actually go to some of these big box stores and